Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I'm your host, Andrew Davis, and this episode is brought to you by my very own t-shirt right here. You could pick it up. It's making fun of Amuro Ray, Taco Bell, the Earth Federation, Fallout, the most interesting man in the world. It's available in 16 different colors on Redbubble, so if you do not like black and you want it in red, uh, basically it's print to order in anything you want or any type of shirt you want for that matter. So you can pick that bad boy up right there, as well as I do have an affiliate link for BCW Supplies, because I know a lot of people like comic books and they sell bags, boards, long boxes, or anything to protect your cards or any paper good. So use Pop Anime Comics to get 10% off your entire order. And so obviously use that code to help support this show, as well as inflation sucks. So save yourself some money. And I have with me cosplayer Jordan Blaza Olsen. So welcome to the
Wow.
show.
Hey, hi. Nice to finally meet you.
I'm very excited because obviously I get bored on Instagram and I scroll through and I look up Gundam cosplays and I'm like, oh snap! Like you got a bunch of cool stuff going on. Um, but we're gonna get to that, I promise everybody. And I have pictures, so I just want to make that crystal clear too. If you
Okay,
like
great.
pictures, I have those. I have those ready for everyone. But I am curious how you got into cosplay because everybody gets into cosplay differently.
Yeah. So I officially got into cosplay around 2016 when I was preparing to go to Comic Con Palm Springs with a friend of mine at the time. But way before that, I was always into making costumes. I studied fashion design for a little bit. I was a fine arts minor when I was going for my associate's degree. So always had the artistic background, but it wasn't until my friend told me about Comic Con Palm Springs, and actually before that, my niece told me about Anime Expo, and she said, you like costumes, you like making dresses, you should try and go to Anime Expo. But it just sounded like, yeah, that's too much of a nerd thing. I'm too cool for that. But the inner nerd won out, and I went to Comic Con Palm Springs. And that's when I would say I officially became a cosplayer.
And so, what was this like? And what was your first one? Because obviously, it's always that first one that
Mhm.
is sometimes good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's a weird experience per se.
I would say so. At that time in 2016, my influences were the sexy girl cosplayers, and it was all about the body. It was all about the skin, and because I also came from pageants, and I used to be a hostess at a nightclub in West Hollywood. It wasn't new to me, so I wanted to be. I wanted to make what's her name, Psylocke from the X-Men movie, and I wanted to replicate that corset that she was wearing. And this first time I'm using Warbler, I had no idea what I was doing. I burned my hands a couple of times, and it still looked really funky. And then the bodysuit that I made was just a little too small. So because it was Palm Springs, I didn't want to wear tights or pantyhose because it's like over 100 degrees. So I'm like, this is really dangerous. So I was just very uncomfortable the whole time, but it felt great that I was wearing something that I made and a character that I could relate to because she's that misunderstood. Is she good? Is she bad? That kind of a. But that was back then. But yeah,
So, so
it was
let's
both
even
weird and good.
so let's even talk about that because one of the things that's actually happened and changed in cosplay in the last few years is this idea that you need to be perfect and that you need to be to, I guess, the T for lack of a better word. And
Mhm.
even if you have to suffer and it's sort of shifted now where I feel like it's more acceptable for the rules to lax a little bit
Mhm.
and somebody can use EVA foam or they could use
Mhm.
fabric and they don't have to use armor per se or Warbler, or there's another one, and I always get the names wrong because I'm not a cosplayer per se.
Mhm.
But what is that like? Because obviously there is issues when you can't sit down at a con. You might look good, you might
Yeah.
look authentic, but
Yes.
it's going to get to a point where you can't sit
Yeah.
down, or it's dangerous even to move. Or obviously I'm in Connecticut,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit cooler. But if you're out in Arizona, it's
Right.
for lack of a better word, it's freaking burning motherfucking hot.
Yeah, yeah. So, yes, you're right. There's a little bit of a shift the last few years. There's a group of cosplayers that went totally into the sexy realm, and they're doing the lewds. And if it's a business, go for it. Just make sure that you treat it as a business. And then there are hobby cosplayers that, um, well, I'm a hobby cosplayer, for example, and I'm at a certain age where I don't feel comfortable anymore being as sexy as I used to be, and also because I just love making armors, and so the shift from uh, cost positive, the body positivity was very helpful for a lot of hobby cosplayers who do not fit that perfect anime body, for example. Yeah.
I mean, I
So
mean,
I
I,
like
I
that
think, yeah,
shift.
I have another word for it where I
Uh-huh.
mean, and people are gonna hate me, but I call a lot of the loot cosplayers sort of entering a softcore porn mode. And the reason why I say that is because when you are pushing out a loot, and look, I'm all
Mhm.
for it, doing whatever you want. I am
Yeah.
very much free in that regard. But I also say, hey, look, not everybody wants to expose themselves that way
Yeah.
in
It's not
society.
for everyone.
And people say, look, I enjoy this as a fun idea. And
Mhm.
again, you said something about it being a business. And look, I mean, I'm going to mention a cosplayer, and there's a few, and a few of them are my friends. Danielle D. Nicola does some, sexy poses. Jessica Nigeri does some sexy poses, and there's real money to be made.
Yeah.
And I think those women run it like a business. But also, there's people who say, hey, look, I just want to have fun doing it. And
Yes.
maybe I have a few, shots here and there, but I think that it's very interesting. I think it's actually a very healthy thing
Mhm.
that cosplay has actually shifted over, because I think that for the longest time, it was actually very bad that that was the front and center component, because that's not what
Mhm.
cosplay is. At least that's not
Yeah.
the way I view it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I know a lot of people know that cosplay literally means cosplay, costume, and play, and so for the purpose of making something or buying something or even borrowing something and then wearing it at an event to play, to have fun, to role play, the LARPing thing, and then there's some that really for them it's finally being free to express and appreciate their own bodies, whether it's the ideal anime body or it's a realistic body, but that celebration, definitely take pride in that. And you're right, it's not for everyone, and I just recommend that for those who want to go that route, treat it as a business. If it's about making money, structure it as a business, so what the work that you're putting into it, you're getting the returns that you want or that you need to supplement that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it
because
just got all, business and business talk about it. I'm not a business person, so that's all I know about that.
yeah, and obviously even going further down into this, and obviously going outside of business, I mean, cosplay can be very expensive. Just as a hobby, tabling the business side of it and understanding all
Mhm.
that and treating it like a business, and that's a whole different thing. I run a business, and so fun stuff, guys, about my business, but it has nothing to do with cosplay, I promise.
Plug
Um,
it.
but even talking about cosplay as it is, I mean, materials are expensive. Materials can be very expensive. You tend to have certain things that I would imagine are expensive that you've done that we're going to get into. We're not going to mention them yet. I promise. I want it to be a little
Okay,
bit.
okay.
But how do you balance costs? Because it can get very expensive. It doesn't have to get expensive, but
Mhm.
it sometimes does. And even if
Mhm.
you're not running it like a business and you're saying, hey, this is my hobby, and
Mhm.
also substituting materials, finding materials,
Yeah.
I don't think in the US finding materials during COVID was difficult. It might have been slightly difficult, but it wasn't ultra difficult. But I know in Australia and the UK there were
Mhm.
shortages. And so, how did you manage all that?
Okay, yeah. So again, there's this shift in the way I do things, the way I cosplay. When I started, I really bought into what the I'll call them cosplay influencers, the popular ones. They were really encouraging people to learn how to use Warbla, thermoplastics, other thermoplastics, EVA foam. And I tried all of those. And definitely, yes, it gets expensive. And I, I I would rather spend my money on food. I love going to really nice restaurants and saving it for travel. So one of the challenges that I put on myself, and this was 2019, I wanted to go to Holiday Matsuri in Florida. I wanted to bring a giant prop, but to ship a giant prop, because of the size, it's going to be so expensive, even if it barely weighs anything. So I looked into different materials that I have used before and realized that foam core board is sturdier and lighter and cheaper than EVA foam. The problem is, and this is for cosplayers out there who are watching, foam core board is all that, but the problem is when it uh, bends or cracks, it doesn't bounce back like EVA foam. However, for me, I make cosplay for just to use for 3 or 4 events, and then I want to make something new. So if that's what people want to do, yes, it's going to get expensive. So different materials that they can use are foam core board and craft foam and just hot glue gun. I know someone who even makes cosplays out of cardboard, Star Wars armors out of cardboard and tape. So really, there's no excuse not to be able to make anything because you can use whatever you have accessible to you and even for free. Does that answer the question?
This is interesting because this is actually something, and this is the first time I'm hearing it, where a lot of cosplayers want to build a cosplay and then they want to maintain that cosplay
Mhm.
versus building it, getting 3 to 4, maybe 5 or 6 uses out of it. And I don't want to say discard it because that's not what I don't think is the right word, but
Mhm.
also understanding that they're building a cosplay not for a infinity use, but for a
Yeah.
finite use. And that's actually very interesting. And
Yeah.
that's actually, this is the first time I'm hearing anybody even openly saying that. So that's a
Yeah.
interesting position actually in a lot
Mhm.
of ways. And I'm curious even how you came to that mentality because I'm not that way. I'm like the complete opposite way in everything I do, where I want to build something, make it infinite.
So a big part of that is um, I like cheap stuff. I don't want to spend so much money on something. It's supposed to be a hobby. So again, going back to a person's intention, why they're doing something. For me, as a hobby, it has to be fun. It has to be affordable, and follow what I'm feeling. So if I change my mind about something, I'm not breaking the bank. But the thing about it, and we'll probably touch on this later, but one of the Gundam cosplays that I made, Strike Freedom, is this giant orange Gundam that can fold and fit in a suitcase for travel. And I have worn it 5 or 6 times and it's still fine. It's not for the thing is, it's not for competition. It's not the kind of cosplay that I would want people to look and inspect to see how it's made because it has been worn several times. But you're right, for me, it's not to be for people's scrutiny for lifetime. It probably has like 2 more conventions, and then I need to either repurpose it or retire it or recycle it, which is the other thing that I love to do with older cosplays.
This is so not me. And look, maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I'm in the digital space on
Uh-huh.
businesses, and also I go through, I guess, exclusive collectible comics,
Okay.
and those are finite too. But again, people want them pristine, and
Hmm.
so like I am so just not that way, and so
Oh.
and maybe I've been corrupted and jaded. I don't know.
Well, I was also running out of space. I live in an apartment in LA, and after a while, I need space to sit down on and to move around. So when I moved to this place a few years ago, unfortunately, one of my favorite pieces got damaged in the move. It was my Mecha Venusaur. But I was able to repurpose some of the pieces from that armor into other cosplay. So it doesn't completely like just die. It's like I give some parts of it another life. I like to look at it that way.
So let's dive into some of this stuff because you got a bunch of stuff, and,
Uh-huh.
and, and I want to talk about Mortal Kombat because
Oh
everyone
gosh.
knows Mortal
Okay.
Kombat, and I got this one right here. This is
Ah.
ultra cool. So this is Scorpion,
Yeah.
and this is obviously I don't even know what Scorpion is anymore. I'm very
Oh,
confused about Mortal Kombat. I am not a Mortal Kombat expert by any stretch of the imagination. I just know that in the game you could basically rip people's hearts out. That's
yeah.
as much as I know about
Yeah.
it. and so, what's the story behind this one? Because this is a pretty, I want to say, intense cosplay to some degree, but it's
Yeah.
also not intense at the same time. Where the things that are done on it are very
Mhm.
intricate, but also there is a little skin showing.
Yeah, yeah. So I made that in 2016 when I was working for one of the nightclubs in West Hollywood, where every Friday night we have a different theme. So this was for, I think this was Villains Night, and so I I'm not a gamer. I love character designs. I think that's a better way to put it. And I remember seeing Scorpion in video games and that old that old movie. And so when I and year before that I made Katana. So Scorpion for me was um, uh, my first effort in using EVA foam. And I learned so much from that one that there's different ways to create the shapes, either bending it or carving it or cutting it up and reconnecting the little pieces. And so all of this, it looks great in pictures, but uh, don't inspect it because you can see it's not cleanly made. And then that was recycled. I recycled a bunch of those pieces to make my Sub Zero cosplay and also to make my Milena cosplay. So that one, see the belt, that's the belt, the arm, and the leg pieces came from the Scorpion armor.
So to even talk about that a little bit, because this is one of the things about cosplay that's also really interesting, is that in COVID has opened up a whole new world, in my opinion, at the very least, where they've opened up the closet cosplay.
Oh, yeah.
And what I mean by that is you go into your closet at home and you find four things that are in your closet and you build a cosplay out of it.
Yeah.
And so and then I think that's also opened up photography cosplay to some degree as well,
Mhm.
where I hate to use this word, but smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Pretty
because you
much.
can manipulate something to look a certain way in a photo that makes it look really good. And then and
Yeah.
then, then up front you're like, oh snap, maybe that's not
Yeah. It is for the entertainment value of it, for entertainment purposes, for your social media followers to have something to look at. Because I think a lot of people on social media, we just want to show off. We want to entertain in a certain way. So closet cosplay has been around for a while, and especially for people who are not able to go to conventions or who cannot afford or don't want to. And so it literally is that. And I did a challenge for myself at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020. A lot of us cosplayers got so depressed, and so my challenge for myself was to closet cosplay as many X-Men characters as I could, and I maxed out at 9. And I even pulled my curtains, blankets, the floaties for the pool. Oh, not that one, that one, well, that one. So, yeah, goggles, curtains. What else? Kitchen gloves. You know, the yellow kitchen gloves. That was it.
And so obviously there's a lot, and we'll dive into the X-Men, but I do want to talk about this one too because this is a Capcom now, and fun
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So that was um, when I started approaching cosplay as art therapy. So I come from some grief, some trauma, and it's not unique for me. A lot of introverted cosplayers are you know handling some emotional and mental health issues, and the detail that I put into this was therapeutic for me because I zoned out carving those little things on the sword, on the helmet, and hand painting the craft foam that you use in elementary school to make it look like gold scales. And so this was my I love this piece, but I don't know math. And so the weight of that giant blade, it was heavy. It was very heavy at the top and lighter at the bottom. So it was very uneven. But this was, I would say, this is the piece that I think helped me break out from cosplayer to a capital C cosplayer. I'm proud of that one.
That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny in a lot of
I
ways.
know. Yeah.
And then talking about big cosplays while we're on them, this thing is a beast
Oh,
in and of
yes.
itself. And
Yeah.
it's not so much the cosplay; it's really the prop. I think because that's a big prop.
Yes. I think that's a little over 8 feet long, but it only weighs under 7 pounds. That's mostly foam core board covered with colored craft foam and hand painted. And it's based on an original design by an artist named Tauntaun Revolver. And his thing is he's creating this his own anime universe of these powerful female characters with giant weapons, and you don't see the creatures that they're fighting, but you always see them battered and bruised, and sometimes the weapons are bloody, but you don't see the enemy. So that's why I gravitated towards that, and it's just powerful without having to say too much.
So to even go further into that and even the building of it, and have you brought that thing to a con, or is that more
Yeah,
of so how
I
does that
did.
work? Because
Oh,
cons are tricky per se, and they get
right.
upset sometimes. They get
Oh
upset.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the first time I brought that at a con was Anime Los Angeles in Long Beach this past January. And because the way the convention is set up, a lot of the people are outside because the weather was so nice. And inside, it wasn't such a problem because it wasn't packed yet. It was still early this year. And then I just uh, wore that again at Anime Expo just last month. Wait, no, it's only July. Early this month, over the July 4th weekend. And that was amazing. How it literally stopped people in their tracks and just go, whoa. They don't know the character, but that yellow rail gun is just awe-inspiring. And to see, I'm only 5'3", so I'm tiny, and they see me carrying it on my shoulder, and I love it when the guys go, "Wow, she works out." I'm like, "No, I don't. It's 7 pounds."
And so even talking about that, what is that like? Because obviously, people who cosplay, I think everybody who cosplays loves to get compliments on their work, and they also like engaging as those characters. Whether you're a
Mhm.
hobbyist, whether it's a business, both, or you're just there and you're like, oh man, I love that character. It
Yeah.
obviously feels cool. And what is that like though when you're making people, turn their heads and say, "Oh snap! Like I've never seen anything like this. What is this show? What is this
Mhm.
character? I don't really care what this character is, but that's awesome. Like what is that like for you?
Exactly.
Because it's cooler when it's not a well-known character, I would think, than when it is a
Yeah.
known character.
Yeah, from my experience, a big part of the joy of cosplay is especially when little kids, oh, excuse me, especially when little kids see a character that they admired for a long time and they see it come to life. And then it's also great when the adult kids see their favorite characters when they were kids and it comes to life and they're just really uh, out of words for it because it brings back happy memories for other people, and it makes me happy when other people share that happiness that I find in something that I made, because we're literally, adults playing dress up. And so it's like an adult playground. And, when kids are saying, "Oh, look at this new toy that I got," and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." So that's kind of like how I am approaching it now in cosplay.
And then even
Big
talking about
kids
another
with
thing,
costumes.
thing that's kind of a big deal. I never, this character, and it's Mercy.
Mhm.
And so this is where this stuff that you do can get expensive to a degree because harnesses are expensive.
Okay, so this one was really cheap too. The harness is also foam core board, and for those who have a 99-cent store in their neighborhood, you can find that 24 by something sheet of foam core board for 99 cents. That's what the wings, the harness, and yeah, the wing and the harness are made of. And then to make the glow on the feathers, that's the fluorescent cellophane from like when you get these gifts. And I just bought a roll of it for like $2 on Amazon. I know how to stretch a dollar. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I
I
know
know
how to
that
stretch a
too.
dollar.
I know that
And
too.
the dress, actually, the white dress is an old bed sheet. It's an old bed sheet. I just washed it again in that oxy wash to make it really white, and I hand painted the design on it. People, you don't have to go broke to make an awesome cosplay.
And what is it like to do Mercy? Because Mercy is obviously one of the healers. There's a few others in Overwatch, and you need a Mercy on your team. And
Mhm.
they've done a lot of cool stuff with Mercy in
Yeah,
the recent years. And there's been a lot of fun stuff that's happened. And so, what is that like? Because when you have a healer, and that healer is Mercy, it's always helpful.
yeah. So that was also, we didn't know. So here's the thing: we didn't know that we were going to have a global lockdown, and this was Holiday Matsuri in 2019. I think people could tell 2019, 2020. I'm sorry. What year is it?
It's
Yeah, that's
2022.
right. Yeah, so 2019. Um, so it was December, and there was just something. People were feeling like, not that it's the end of the world, but there was just something in the air. And so I wanted to make an angel because Holiday Matsuri is also Christmas themed. And it's really a Christmas party for all the weebs and the nerds. And I chose this design because I thought it was a classic design, but I didn't want to wear the short skirt. I wanted to be extra. That's the other thing. So I made it a longer gown with a long gold train, and there was a video of it made by Superpower Cinematics or Super Cinematics. And it's just me turning around, and they added the effect of the glow coming from my hands. And it was a wonderful feeling for people to respond and say, heal me, because I think people knew jokingly that something was about to happen, something was about to go down.
So to even talk about that, because obviously COVID happened and COVID messed up, and I come from the wrestling world, I come from the comic world in a lot of respects. And
Hmm.
COVID hit and all these wrestling events started stopped happening, all these cons started stopped happening, all these comic stuff stopped happening. And then that's how this entire show started, is because a bunch of people were getting screwed over. And so what was that like for you? Because I didn't get the sense in December of 2019 going into 2020, or even at the end of whatever, that there's going to be a problem per se. I
Hmm.
didn't get that vibe until March.
Hmm.
Um, and I was in DC and it was just business as usual. So I'm very curious, what was that like for you?
Hmm.
Obviously, with COVID hit and all that stuff, because now all these cons are not happening. All this stuff is sort of
Yeah.
tabled, and forgetting about the money and the business side of everything. And
Mhm.
obviously, that's a whole different discussion for a whole different group of people. What was going on with you, and how is that like? Because now nothing's going on, and a lot
Yeah,
of
it was
things.
depressing. It was depressing, exactly what you said, because um, it was hard to accept that it was for everyone's safety to just not gather for a while um, the powers that be figure out how to stop it. And so it was depressing because I'm one of the people that constantly makes stuff to share, to wear at different events. And so not having an event to go to, that was my only social outlet. And it was upsetting, it got to the point where um, I wanted to take risks and go to events, but they were still getting canceled. And thankfully, there are some local photographer friends of mine who are down to do photo shoots, group photo shoots, just a small gatherings instead of the large conventions. So that was helpful.
Yeah, and I think both good and bad things have come out of COVID with cosplay and in the entire industry. I think also there's been just has to do this. So anyway, now I'm back. I'm back. As I was
Okay, okay.
stating, I think that there's been a shift, and I also think that, not to go get you or me canceled, but I think that some of the bigger name cosplayers, I don't want to say they lost following, but I think it also gave a lot more spotlight to a lot of upstart cosplayers and a bunch of people who didn't exactly have the spotlight during COVID. Because I think what
Mhm.
started happening is that there was more attention on the internet and more attention on Instagram. I think that's actually a
Yes.
very healthier thing. And if you actually look at some of these top cosplayers, Jessica Nigeri, she
Mhm.
lost Instagram followers. And I don't think she's starving per se, but I think it's actually healthy that, because for a lot of COVID, she didn't post. And I think it gave an opportunity for other cosplayers to be discovered. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing in business in general, is when,
Yeah.
once in a while you need a fire to wipe out some of the dead trees.
Yeah, and to give others the opportunity to shine or to be seen. Um, and it was difficult for everyone in different ways, because for a lot of people, social media is the only way to socialize. It's the only way for some of the people to connect with others. And so not being able to talk about other things and fixated on just the problem, it really fired up a lot of people. And that's where, all the canceling started to happen because people wanted to fight. I think that's another thing. People wanted to fight and they didn't know who to direct that anger towards. And so a lot of them directed it towards each other. I sat back and ate popcorn because I'm like, I'm not into drama, but I'm just going to watch it happen.
Oh man, it's a very 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 interesting thing. I'm just above it now. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
If you want to fight, be my guest, everybody. And obviously speaking about fighting, because we do have to talk about these right here.
Ah,
So it's this one. It's this one also, which is all the
yep.
pieces. This
That's how
is, I
it
think,
started.
Strike Freedom. This is
Mm-hmm.
another version of that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is also the Anime Expo one. And so,
Yeah.
what's the deal behind this? Because this is like the first time in a while I've seen actually somebody do a mecha unit versus a pilot.
Yeah. I've One of the first animes that I remember seeing as a kid is an old Japanese one called Space Cruiser Yamato. And there was another one in the Philippines, Voltus 5, Mazinger Z. And then here in the US, it was Robotech. So I was always fascinated with mecha because there's just a different kind of power of these machines in space. And then when you bring those machines in on Earth situation, it's a different kind of escapism. And I wanted to make a Gundam cosplay, especially after I saw Vampy Bit Me did Gundam Unicorn a few years back. And I asked her about it, and she was so gracious to tell me what her experience was making it. So I learned a lot from her. And when I made the Gundam wing, I knew that I wanted to be able to move around. That means I could not cover myself up in armor. So the armor part was good. I didn't think of the wings part. And remember, I said earlier about EVA foam being heavier. That wing part is made of maybe 4 layers of quarter-inch and half-inch EVA foam, plus hot glue, plus PVC pipe, plus wood dowel, plus lights, plus paint. So the whole wing unit of that Gundam wing, the first one you showed, the whole thing is almost 20 something pounds on a person as tiny as me. Yes. And because it's tilting backwards, it just felt a lot heavier. So I learned so much from that. As fun as it looks, I look like a toy, which is my goal. I learned to make it a, half the weight and even easier to move in, and I can travel with. That's why the orange Gundam came about. Strike Freedom. Lesson learned. Yeah, that one. It's amazing.
And even to go further into this, because obviously I think that you also got the opportunity to hang out in the Bandai booth. I think at one
Yes.
point,
Yeah,
and
a couple of
so
times.
that's always cool.
So yeah, so the first one was in uh, I believe it was San Diego Comic Con special edition, and Gundam Base Tokyo had a pop up booth, and I didn't even know that they were there, but I had an exhibit booth a little farther away, and I was walking around, and some people said, come this way," and so I was with my photographer friends, and they told me to stand in front of something, and I didn't realize it was the Gundam base booth, and that's where the Bandai Hobby, Tamashi Nations, and the Gundam Hobby Collect people saw me, and they took pictures and then invited me to come to the one in LA and then to come to Anime Expo where I got to hang out with Vampy Bit Me and some of the, oh my gosh, they showed the concept art for the upcoming live action Gundam movie, and they cannot release it yet, but that was such a privilege to be able to see that and to get a preview of the hype that's about to happen.
It's
It
crazy.
was
That's
great. It was amazing.
that is wild in a lot of ways. And obviously, I'm a Gundam fan, so that's super super dope. Um,
Good.
super super dope. And obviously, I mean, it's well done. Both these cosplays, as I was
Thank
showing right
you.
here. This is right here. Obviously, it's a super cool one. Obviously, it is very travelable. For lack of, I don't know if
Mhm.
that's a word, but I'm dubbing it now.
We'll take
Um,
it. We'll take it.
and so what is that like too? Because that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with in cosplay is that it's cool to have a gigantic cosplay, but it's a bitch to move it around. And
Yes,
so
that's a,
what is that
that's
like?
an
Because
exact word.
I mean it's difficult. It's hard enough to move around my laptop, and my laptop weighs like 3. Let alone a whole Gundam unit. It's not even
Yeah.
like
So the picture that you showed with a white background was taken at that one was taken at IkiCon in I believe Austin, Texas, and photographed by my friend Kevin, the director, who is more known for his cosplay music videos. But he had to help me put that on outside of the main hall where there was no people around, because and so that's the thing that cosplayers learn and cosplayers know is even
bring a
if you yes, you
friend.
need someone with you, especially for the large cosplays, even if you're just at a local con. But I made that one so I can put it all on myself if there was space for me to move around in. If there's no space, good luck. So, not only do you need people, but you also need space. There's
That's
always that
another
give and
thing.
take.
That's actually another thing, and I'm sure you're well aware of this. And I'll talk about it too much. I walk on crutches, so I have a hard time
Okay.
physically walking. And when a con has a narrow row, it's hard to move.
Yes.
It's hard to move. I don't like cons that have narrow
Hmm.
rows. Like I'm not a fan of the New York Javits Center where New York Comic
Oh,
Con happens,
yeah.
Anime NYC happens there. It's very tight in that con, and it's not their fault, but it's just a tight con. I used to live in DC, and I was at Awesome Con, wider
Hmm.
roads
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
most part, much easier to move around. Um, and so I would imagine that if you have, the strike freedom, if you're in a narrow row, it's a rather difficult entity, and it
Hmm.
may or may not be a dealer room friendly cosplay.
Oh, it's definitely not, you know, that kind of a friendly cosplay. A lot of times I have to take the wing panel off for that specific one, to take it off and carry it with me and walk sideways along the wall. So it's not cute, it's not pretty, and people want to take pictures. And I'm like, no, not yet. Let me go to a spot and then let's take pictures.
It's
And
more
so,
like I don't know San Diego, but San Diego obviously has Hall H, which I think is the dealer's room, right?
yes,
It's
yes.
not a Hall H cosplay, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah, but for I was able to wear my two Gundams at in San Diego because that special edition in 2021 is maybe a third of the regular San Diego Comic Con. So it was a great experience for me to realize that I cannot wear the Gundam at a regular San Diego Comic Con. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna unless I just stand against the wall, then I'm fine.
Or the other thing is that if you are in a booth and you're going to
Hmm.
stay in that booth, that's also different. But I digress. I do want to talk about Pokemon though, 'cause this is the
Ah,
Venusaur,
yeah.
Bulbasaur, Ivysaur. I'm not too sure which it is. It could be Ivysaur or Venusaur, because it looks like both, and this thing is sweet as fuck.
Yeah, so
Um,
what do you want to know about this one? I'm proud of this one.
it's pretty cool. I really like the shield or the bulb,
Hmm.
and that's what I like on this thing because I would totally hang that up on my wall. It's just like
Yeah. Yeah, so okay, so this one, I love original designs. I love fan art and I love original characters. So that is based on a design by an artist named Jethro Coy for Frame Wars, also on Instagram. And they did a series of mecha Pokemon, and this one is Mecha Venusaur. And the way I interpreted it is I separated the shield and the bulb from the body and made it the traditional shield and something kind of weapon. The shield is the first time I used the clear, um, uh, it's a thermoplastic. And I tried to use a heat gun to bend it, but it wouldn't keep its shape. So I just used my favorite foam core board, which I bent into shape, and then I created a stencil, added reflective tape, and then turned it into a shield. And everything is just battery operated LED fairy lights because as much as I want to make my own LED lighting and soldering and all of that, it's easier to just buy something battery operated and glue it on. But yeah, that and sadly, that's the one that fell apart when I moved from Hollywood to downtown LA. So I wasn't able to rescue the shield, but I was able to salvage some of the armor pieces.
and then even going forward into this, I mean, you have this one right here too, which is your
That's
Pikachu, your
that's
Monster Hunter
Pikachu
Pikachu.
Monster Hunter.
And that this is something that is a mashup, and the tail's the sword, and that's kind of funny in a lot
Yeah,
of ways.
there are some people that were really upset saying, "How many Pikachus did you kill to make the armor?" I'm like, "Come on, guys. Pikachu is not real." And they were so upset. But it's kind of like that uh, a little twisted sense of humor. There's humor in it. Cosplay is about fantasy. Cosplay is about being creative and creating something that is out of the norm. And so I thought this was a really fun piece to make. And that's the first one that I made that fits in a suitcase because you see the top of the tail is the shape of a large suitcase, and then everything else goes on top of it.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And then sticking with Pokemon here, we got this one.
Yeah, Giratina.
That thing's a beast. That Pokemon didn't even become relevant until
Yeah,
Platinum came out because nobody knew this Pokemon even existed in the game until Platinum came
yes,
out. And you got your
yeah,
little statue if you pre-ordered. Oh, it's great.
yeah.
I'm
so
actually looking
so
at the statue over there too, which is funnier.
yeah, so someone told me about another artist, Anne, and she designed a, different Pokemon monster hunters. And this is one of the ones that she designed. And I challenged myself. I love challenging myself because it helps me focus. But this one is about 9 feet long and also fits in a suitcase. So, but light, very light. And I first wore that at Anime Los Angeles, and it was such a fun experience, but not a lot of people. Oh, that was the second time I wore it. The first time was in Silicon with Adam Savage up in the Bay Area. Yeah, it's not very familiar to a lot of people, but it's still a magnificent piece of weapon, I should say.
And then talk about magnificent. This is a really, really magnificent.
Oh, yeah. Articuno. This one was my own interpretation. Remember, I said earlier about I was my early influences were the sexy cosplayers, and this is for Anime Expo 2018. Knowing that I'm not I don't have that same body as my friends. And so the only thing I could think of was Victoria's Secret wings. And then so the bodysuit is made of two pillowcases that I airbrushed to create the different colors, and so the wings are made of the packing foam sheet that's very very thin and very light. That's what it's made of. I'm cheap. I can go very cheap on a cosplay.
And then speaking about wings, obviously this is out there too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so Hawks is just such a sexy character, one of my favorites, and and I just had to make those wings. I love wings. I think when you scroll through my Instagram feed, you'll see two things: wings and giant props. And these wings are all craft foam. And also on a foam core board and wooden dowel harness. It has survived two conventions and two photo shoots. And the next time that I'm going to display this, it's just going to be on display, is for LA Comic Con at the end of this year.
Yeah, and
Oh,
and
I
and as
lost
I
you
was
there for a little bit.
wings difficult.
Oh,
Um,
oh, what happened? Sorry, I lost you there for a moment.
I'm back. Hopefully I'm back.
I
This is
see
what
you. I
happens.
see you.
This is what happens. Anything could happen live, guys. Anything could happen live. All but one of the things about wings and even big props, as I was stating or trying to state at the very least, is that they're really fun. They're really cool. They piss off cons. And so, how do you even figure out where the line is? Also, who to go to at a con because somebody might be nicer and somebody might be meaner depending on it. And so, how do you figure out how far you can push it? And it goes for a lot of things too. I mean, it's of how skimpy you can be at a con, how what type of weapon can you bring in, how realistic can you go per se. All no, no.
Yes.
I mean, there's a story up in Boston where what
Mhm.
happened is that at Anime Boston, they now have metal detectors. Because in the Hind Convention Center, there was an issue where people tried to bring in guns, real guns, because there was a fight at like a
Oh.
Pokemon. It's a very scary thing if you think about it. And
Mhm.
so at Anime Boston, they have metal detectors, and now it takes 30 minutes to get into the con because of that.
Ah, well, in Anime Expo Los Angeles, for some people, it took them a couple of hours to get in. Not just for the metal detectors, but also with the COVID check and all of that, and the prop check. And it is for everyone's safety. But my advice is for anyone who's going to go to a cosplay to a conventions, especially in cosplay, to really read the details, the fine prints, and look at the different entrances that they can go to, because uh, people tend to just follow the flock, follow where the line is, and sometimes that's not your line. You can go to some other line around the corner where the line is shorter and the people are more forgiving and just let you through. So, we don't want to read. I am a lazy reader, but you just have to read those regulations and
Oh,
policies way before. I'm such a terrible reader, but I don't want to experience, like what you said, experiencing the delay, and especially when you're in cosplay going through a metal detector.
Oh, I'm a fantastic reader, and I'll just say this: when I go to a con and I have
Mhm.
money, every dollar has a mission. On a
Yeah,
business
yeah,
and personal level, I look at every entrance. I look at where I could get
yes,
into a con.
yes.
Um, no, you'd be surprised, everybody, what you can get away with when you read things. But I digress. All I'm going to say is that actually read the website and actually look at a map. Reading a map has pictures, and I can tell you that you might save yourself a boatload of money if you read pictures. That's all I'm gonna
Yes.
say. They're also called comic books, so please read those too. I digress though. All jokes aside, obviously we got really big wings here. We got some Victoria's Secret wings here.
Hmm.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I have to show this too. Just I just think it's funny. We got this.
So yeah, that one is like three different versions, and I'm still not happy with it. This one
You
was
got a Rugrats one too, don't you?
I did. I don't know if it's still there, but I did. What's her name? Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's still there, but uh, I am just fascinated by people's fascination over Goku. I think that's what I'm more fascinated about. And so I'm still not finished with Goku. I might redo this, but the last one was the most fun where I just put on the foam wig from another cosplay, and then I made the prop like in 1 hour before I finished packing my suitcase, just so I have something to use. Um, I focused more on the fun, on the play side of it, because it was for Fan Expo Dallas, and my understanding is it's more for the fans. It's just to entertain them, really, just to have fun with it.
No, I'm a big Tsunade. Her voice actress was on this show, so big
Oh
fan.
yeah, oh cool.
And that's so
Um,
Shinzune was on this show too. In case anybody didn't know, um, Megan Hollinshead is brilliant. Debbie Mae West is great as well. So big fan. I love my Tsunade Pop Funko. She's right Umaru and Jiraiya on my Instagram. Purposely, they're all in like the same row. It's kind of funny. Um, that was intentional. I also put Rock Lee next to Garza on Instagram,
uh-huh,
and I
uh-huh.
put an arrow saying "best friends." Yeah, and like
Oh,
how Rock Lee best friends. Oh, it's so sick. It's like nobody got this joke though. Nobody looks at my Instagram. It's all right. I'm devastated. But I do want to talk about one more on the cosplay side, and it's the graphic photo, and it's this one.
oh yeah. Yes, so that was in Hawaii. I was going for vacation, and I have some photographer friends there who said, "Why don't you bring some cosplay and we'll take some pictures?" So we spent half a day just going to the different beaches, and this was the last one that we shot. And I just wanted to be cute because there's that one scene in Darling in the Franks, which uh, one scene where she just jumped in the water and tried to catch fishes. So I have that other picture too of three different snapshots of me diving in the water because there were little fishes swimming around. So I thought it was just something fun, something playful.
I mean, you were the foreign object in their territory that day.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I
They're so
don't think people
cute.
realize that when you go to the ocean, you're an invasive species.
Yeah, I mean they were circling around, but they were the tiny ones.
And then I do want to back out of the anime stuff and briefly go through comics. Um, so obviously there's Catwoman, DC, Poison Ivy,
Hmm.
and then you have an X-Men fetish apparently. So
Yes, I do. Well, ta-da! So I've just finished Magic Sword, and it's all just painted with iridescent and glow paint, so I don't have to put LED. Look at that. Look at how that glows. That's all just paint. And I did that for a special edition X-Men swimsuit, swimsuit calendar kind of a thing. We don't have a release date yet, but I'll post it on my Instagram when that's going to be out with other cosplayers doing swimsuit X-Men characters.
that's the new thing. That's the new thing, everybody. You know, the swimsuit edition. It's not new. It's not new. It's been around in comics for over 30 years. It's
Yeah,
not new. It's just the calendars are making real money. There's a cosplayer, and I think she's like doing 100 grand. I didn't.
yeah,
Re- 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 I hate my internet, guys. I hate my internet. I have to call cable. Okay, I hate my
you
internet.
do.
As I was stating. See, even my text message knows that I'm. But anyhow, as I was stating, it's real big money, and also it's not just guys that are buying it now. It's a lot of women are buying it too,
Hmm.
and it's very interesting how that all came about because it's sometimes the husband's buying it and his wife gets angry at him, or the boyfriend buys it and his girl gets angry at him, or sometimes the girl's buying it because she's like, I want it. Okay. And so it's very interesting how that's all played out. But obviously, it's exposure, there's money in it, and people like looking at
Hmm.
really cool characters and stuff. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but I digress. I look fantastic in this swimsuit. I just want to make that crystal clear. Um, me, me,
yeah.
me and my buddy Pat Chan look great in swimsuits. Pat Chan is like over like 80K on Kickstarter right now. On his book
Nice.
called Thirst. But in the vein of Raven Gregory, I gotta have to say fuck Pat Chan. But anyhow, I'm sure Raven's watching and Raven will see this. Raven's a good person to know, but I digress. Um, all jokes aside, what was it like to do a bunch of X-Men? 'Cause you've done like 9 of them.
It's fun. X-Men is one of my favorite Western animation. I didn't get into the comic books, but definitely the cartoons was great. And then when the movie started coming out, I'm still
Come on,
waiting for.
X3 was great. X3 was fantastic. Come on, X3 was
I'm
fantastic.
entertained. I'm entertained, but I'm still waiting for them to give Storm the justice she deserves. Uh, my last favorite X-Men is Days of Future Past because it just showed me like just a range of X-Men characters and X-Men storylines. And so I'm excited for what's going to happen next. I wanted more of the New Mutants. I think the New Mutants was a great introduction to this new generation of X-Men followers. And so I'm curious what's going to happen next. I would love to see what I'm still going to watch it. Even though if I don't go crazy over it, I'm still going to enjoy it.
Yeah, see, I'm not into the X-Men. I think the Teen Titans would kick their ass. And
Okay.
Because it's the Justice League and the Avengers, and it's the Teen Titans and the X Men. Is how it
You're
matches
just
up.
starting a fight between DC and Marvel.
No. But every mashup book, it's always been the Teen Titans and the X Men. So
Okay.
there's been a few of them that are actually out there where the X Men and the Teen Titans team up. It's actually super cool.
Oh,
Um, yeah,
see,
yeah,
I
yeah,
learned
yeah.
something new.
And it's always the Avengers and the Justice League, which makes sense
Mhm.
because it would make no sense for the X Men and the Justice League to team up. They just
Yeah.
don't match the same
Okay.
way because nothing against the X Men, but the X Men are sort of a separate. I don't want to say they're the B squad, but they're not Marvel's like premier like the Avengers.
Right. Right.
It's just the way it is. Same thing with the Teen Titans and the Justice League. Now
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
want to gravitating to the Avengers, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
It is.
Um,
It is.
but, but I don't even know what's going on anymore with Disney. I'm so confused on Disney. So confused. I
I'll
know.
just keep watching. That's all.
I mean, I want the Fantastic Four. That thing looks dope. And
I think
getting
it's
like
gonna
a,
happen. It's gonna happen.
I think they announced it. But I
Was
don't
that
know
part
what's
of
going to
it?
happen. But
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm more, of
Okay. We'll wait. We'll wait.
course. Basically, X Men from the '90s was great. That show, X Men Evolution, was great. And then they're going to continue it, and that's I think what is going to be the steal on Disney.
Hmm.
I think that's going to beat anything they produce on the X Men ever. They're just them bringing it back is the best thing Disney can do for the X Men. No, no,
We'll
no. I don't
watch.
think you can top X Men '97. I just don't think you can
Yeah,
top it.
we're gonna watch. We're gonna keep watching.
Yes, exactly. But I do want to back out of all your cosplays, even though I do like Cyclops. I loved him in Abrasax. I thought he was great in Abrasax. I really wanted him to win. I really did. I was rooting for him all the way. Him with Dark Phoenix's power, come on.
Hmm.
I'm back. I'm back. It's
I'm still here. I'm here. I'm here.
just it's being very difficult and being very bad. It's being a very bad internet. I'm gonna have to discipline it when I'm off this entire interview. But I do want to back out of all your cosplays, and I am curious where you think cosplay is going because COVID has changed a lot of stuff, and
Hmm.
cons are now coming back, but things have evolved in a lot of ways. And I haven't been to a con in 3 years, so I'm a little rusty
Hmm.
in that area. But I'm curious how you feel. Cons have come back. You know, also how COVID has affected both the convention, even what people are
Hmm.
comfortable doing, also the online scene, and because the online scene has also changed dramatically.
Yes. So I can speak for myself that um, there was a moment before the pandemic where I really wanted to make it big in the cosplay community, especially through social media. And I wanted, more than 10,000 followers, and I just cannot get there. The last few years being away from everyone forced me to really come to terms with certain things that, especially the fact that I get the most joy out of cosplay when it's a hobby. And so my approach has slowly changed back to I'm just going to do it for fun. I'm not going to force the popularity to happen. I'm not going to play into the cosplay world drama. I'm not going to pick fights because there's a lot more important things for me, and the pandemic showed me that, is to spend time with people who want to spend time with me, and to do things that really make me happy, and that's vacations. I love vacations. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing, is focus on the fun part instead of the cosplay popularity part. um, I'll leave that for the younger people who have the energy. I don't have the energy to do that.
See, that's interesting because I've come to a very interesting conclusion where I ran a Kickstarter for this show. I got my ass kicked in January. I funded,
Mhm.
but it was rough, and I don't want to do that again. And honestly, the reception of supporting a podcast, people want media. They just don't want to throw you 5, 10, $20. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a real issue because they're like, hey, I want to be in your show, and I'm like, okay, cool. How are you helping me? And
Mhm.
they, they and so now I've actually taken care of, and I have a few more people I have to take care of, and then I'm taking back my show and interviewing whoever I want to interview. And if people want to
Mhm.
support me or they want my attention, well, everyone knows how to get my attention, and there's 14 different ways that you can do it. You pick your poison.
Mhm.
But I've also moved and said, what do people really care about? Which is the venture I'm starting in the next 2 weeks, which is
Mhm.
teaching
Mhm.
confident investing. And that's what I care about. And I'm going to still do this show, but my attention has shifted. And again,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm leaving it to the next generation. You guys can all figure out how to monetize this type of show because guess what? I'm going to be making bank on my other stuff. And that's where I'm
Yeah.
at. And it's also very much become a popularity brand because
Mhm.
nothing against all those people are doing $100,000 with their calendar, but they have a huge amount of following and it's a business for them and they've worked their asses off. So they wouldn't be pulling in that 100K. And it is a popularity contest. And also, this is so annoying. So, not to throw Jessica down the rabbit hole, her engagement rate on Instagram is 3%. I mean, her
She's
posts
not the
double.
only one though. Yeah, she's not. It's all across the board.
All the top 10 cosplayers have less than a 5% engagement rate on Instagram right now, which is crazy. Now, her posts are
Mhm.
worth $4,400 a post. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that she's not worth bank, but that's what's crazy. And there was a reason why Hot Topic actually stopped working with some of the top cosplayers, and they're working with people who have less than 10,000 because their engagement rate is higher.
Mhm.
It's a massive shift that has happened in the last probably 18 months, and it's a big deal.
Yeah,
Where,
yeah.
but I digress. So I guess my next question to you is that where do you see cosplay going? Because there's been a massive shift in the last, I kind of alluded to it, in the last 18 to 24 months. And I'm curious where you see it going. Because I'm not in the industry in the cosplay side.
Mhm. So I think it's going to continue in this path for a few more years until a new hot thing comes around. And we know that a lot of cosplayers also have ventured into TikTok and are doing really well on TikTok. But remember, we also came from Facebook, and then there was Reddit, there was Tumblr, there was Patreon, and now it's OnlyFans. So it's not going to stay in one social media platform. It's going to keep changing, but there's always going to be a group of people who will approach it as a business, and there's a group of people who will approach it as a hobby. And my energy is towards the hobby, because like what you said, I have a regular job that pays the bills and I don't have to worry about anything else. So I'm going to preserve that. I'm going to preserve that one and keep making cosplay for fun.
And then on that note, is I want to go eat my dinner soon. You know, you got to
Ah!
go do your thing. I do want you to though a chance to self promote yourself. So where can people find you, bother you, hit you up, support you, throw you money if they so want to? You know, pick up a calendar, look out for all that fun stuff, get you to that 10K plus mark on Instagram, all that fun stuff.
I'm almost there. I'm really, really close. So people can find me. My handle is the girl with a great smile on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And on also my website where you can see the other things that I do, including music and a lot of work in public health. And because this is a hobby for me, I just encourage people who are watching this to donate or give tips to your favorite social media businesses, including pop anime comics. You know, send some dollars this way, and also just don't forget, cosplay is costume plus play. So try to keep having fun with it because otherwise it's just a costume. And I hope that went through.
This is so annoying. But as I was stating, obviously I'm going to keep stating you have to support indie content creators, and what that means is you have to actually throw money to projects. The creation process is part of it, but it's also the idea that money is a necessity to create in a lot of ways to get things done. So throwing money matters, but even going beyond that, following people on social media matters, hitting them up, commenting, liking on Instagram, liking on Twitter, leaving a comment. I think you can leave a comment on TikTok and Instagram. And if you can't, well, now you can, and you should. But all that stuff matters because it does go a long way, and it also gets more exposure, which does lead to more money and more opportunities. So, and social media is free because everybody's at different realms economically, and so
Mhm.
obviously, if you can't throw money for whatever reason at somebody, you can like them on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook pages, and all that stuff is free. And you can comment, and it does make a difference. Or you could shoot somebody a DM and be like, "Hey, really like your cosplay." It put a smile on my face because when I get those messages and somebody can't necessarily buy me a coffee, I absolutely appreciate it because it makes me feel say, "Oh, somebody's watching," at the very least. And I write back and say, "Hey, please share it." And sometimes they do, and that's helpful because if you could introduce me to your friends, and this
Mhm.
introduce to your friends, now I might have 5 more followers, and it's great, and 5 more people might watch it, and that's what I want. So that's what I say as far as I'm concerned, and shamelessly promoting myself before other
Go
people
for
get at
it.
me. Um, I got this T-shirt up, so it's Redbubble. It's in the description above. Use my code POPAnimeComics to get 10% off your BCW order supply. I do have a class that is dropping fully on October 5th, teaching comic book investing. It also will be released in piecemeal on Substack and Locals. So if you want to pay for it every, cheaper over time, that's an option because I leave that, and there will be other bonus content there. And that's going to be dropping soon. Also, I do have Buy Me a Coffee. So if you like what I talk about and you want to either advertise on this show, you want to do whatever you want to, buy a guaranteed guest spot on my show, be my guest, or you say, hey, look, I really like what you do and I want this thing to continue, more than happy to take your money. Obviously, support Jordan as well. If you're going to support me, I recommend everybody do that. And that's pretty much everything I got. Anything that you want from me, all my social media is down below. It's Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Oh, yes. So
see. You probably. What happened? Are you there?
I
Okay.
should be here now. I'm going to give
Okay.
you the
There. There.
I'm going to give you
Uh,
the final word.
um. Just remember, costume is costume, and play. Keep the play and costume. Keep having fun. Stay out of the drama.
And I don't think I could have said that any better myself, everybody. That is a wrap.
Yay!